Hello, everybody, and welcome to Shadow at Night. This is Wednesday, May the 14th, 2025. On the show tonight, we're hoping to have a guest appearance from Jim Kerr, who's been on the ground at Universal Ostrich Farm for the past few weeks. I'm not exactly sure how long. To tell us if CFIA has shown up yet to cull these 400 healthy ostriches. Hopefully not, but we'll find out, I guess, in the next few minutes when Jim Kerr joins the show. You guys know Jim. I'm sure you follow him on social media. He's been down there reporting live. Also, no budget this year. The federal government, freshly elected minority government. Oh, and by the way, there is a new report on the vote counting that's happening in Terra Nova, the peninsulas in Quebec. We're going to get to that in just a second. And there's 3 other recounts going on in the country right now. The Liberals are not going to get a majority, but they could come awfully close depending on how these votes go. On the other hand, it could be they're reduced to even fewer seats than they already have, which is right now officially 169. The less seats they have, the better we are, as far as I'm concerned. The Shadow at Night live stream, as always, my friends, is brought to you by you-know-who, CanadaNanoSilver.com.
Discover the future of natural wellness with Canada Nano Silver. Trusted by families across Canada, our Nano Silver solutions are designed to support your immune system every single day. Whether you're protecting your kids, boosting your own immunity, or caring for aging parents, Nano Silver helps keep your whole household healthier. Our advanced formula harnesses the natural power of silver at the microscopic level, fighting bacteria, supporting healing, and enhancing your body's defenses. From immune gummies to soothing gel and powerful liquid drops, we offer a complete lineup for your family's well-being. It's not just protection. It's peace of mind, powered by science. Choose Canada Nano Silver, because your family deserves the best in natural immune support.
CanadaNanoSilver.com. Again, that is CanadaNanoSilver.com. All right, live to Universal Ostrich Farm. It's Jim Kerr. How you doing, buddy?
Oh, man, feeling more and more encouraged by the moment, I got to tell you.
Why is that? Because there's a lot of people across the country who aren't feeling so good about all this.
Oh, dude, let me just tell you something. We felt the same way, especially when we got the news a couple days ago, yesterday. I'm not even sure. It seems like time's weird.
Right.
But what's happened is there is such an outpouring of support out on the interwebs. And here it's starting to fill in. We had a global guy here today who got a bit of a rough ride coming in. Sorry about that, buddy. But, some of the things that your company has done ain't really the best. But yeah, no. And now people are lined up to come in. Here, I can show you.
Yeah, let's see, man. Let's see it.
Okay. So here we are. This is the main gate. And these are some of the vehicles just waiting to get in. This vehicle somehow broke down in front of the gates. We're not sure how that happened. Hi, how are you? You're on a show.
No.
Oh, no, she shouldn't be on the show. So this one accidentally broke down here.
Accidentally broke down. Right.
Yeah, we've got some other things that are weird. It's weird how these things are just happening.
Amazing, isn't it?
So, yeah, I'm really encouraged. I see the people showing up, and then I see the outpouring of support on the internet is really actually kind of really damn surprising. I mean, I don't have a really big following or whatever, but I got a bunch of people through the Freedom Convoy, and this is the only thing that's rivaled it since. Not even and this is surpassing it.
Is it? Wow.
For my audiences, yes.
What is the experience? How long have you been there? I'm unsure on that.
Okay, well, I came for 10 days. I was supposed to be here for 10 days, and then the day after was the day that I was supposed to be, or the verdict was supposed to come out. So I thought I can't leave. I've been here about 30 days, a little bit more than 30 days now.
Wow. And you've been doing lives every day since then. Thank you, by the way, for getting the word out about this. It's much appreciated by everybody.
Oh, brother, it's something that hit my heart. I mean, back in December when I heard about it, I was perplexed. I'm like, ostriches and hazmat suits and everything. And, it was the visuals on it were really interesting. But then when I actually spoke to Katie for about an hour and a half on the phone, I started getting some of the details and I went, whoa. I mean, the amount of subjects that this breaches and the capacity to be able to reach the middle market is unlike any story I've ever seen, other than the Freedom Convoy, which, was taken good for some and not so much for others.
I've been watching some of your stuff in the last week, and you've been incredibly eloquent at pointing out what exactly is going on with the ostrich eggs, what they're doing with them, the scientists that have been working on them for antibodies to come up with a new vaccine. Could you go through that again for us, please?
Yeah, sure. So the idea here is that these birds aren't used for meat. They're not used for feathers. They're not destroyed in the research that these folks do. They go through these different diseases and their body becomes accustomed to it. I guess we call it immunity. And then you have these antibodies that are produced in your body. But you see the ostriches and every other species pretty damn smart, because what they do is they pass it on to their young through the breast milk. And in this case, through the yolks of the eggs, which the baby bird. So now the bird is immune to everything that the parents were immune to. And it was, that's how they continue to survive for like 60 million years.
And these ostriches, some of them are 30, 35 years old, yeah?
Yeah, youngest is 7, oldest is like 35.
Wow. Were you there when one of the hens was shot?
No, that was a couple of weeks before I came here. But when I did get on site, a gentleman had a picture of it. They didn't circulate that on the internet. And based on his hunting experience, he figured it was a hollow point 22 because of the entry wound just under the ear and the exit wound. And anything around that is conjecture. We don't know who shot them. And there was some inferences that may not have necessarily been accurate. So we just don't know. We don't know who shot them.
How many people are there right now? Because I know that in the last 24 hours since this news came out, people have been rallying, and I know it's a very isolated spot where you're at.
I'm guessing there's over 100 at this point.
Wow.
And there's been a core crew of anywhere between 10 and 20 as long as I've been here anyway. But now it's swelling now, and we've been in this thing for a little while, as far as just trying to be on the side of truth. And we've met a lot of people, and every single one of them that I've talked to is like, we're going to do what we can do. And you can't ask for more than that. A lot of people are like, oh, I can't be there. Well, that's okay. But, you can be empowered to know that you're sitting on the other edge of that screen where you could share this out to somebody who might make all the difference in the world. People need to be empowered. I think they sit at home and they go, oh, that's so sad. I wish it wasn't happening. My prayers are with you. Now, the prayer thing is valuable. We need more of those. But at the same token, we also need people to get active. Like, don't come to me and say you should do this. No, if you've got the idea, take the initiative and make it happen. Get a couple people behind you, make it happen. It doesn't matter whether you're writing letters, doesn't matter whether you're reaching out to the media, whether you're having a conversation with a neighbor, or we have the power. We've always had the power. We're the ants. The grasshoppers aren't in control as soon as we stand up, man.
Where are people staying? You got 100 people there. Are they bringing their campers with them?
Yeah, a couple campers just rolled in. A lot of people are rolling in vehicles, so they're staying in their own vehicles. There is a hotel just up the road that is probably got about 10 to 12 rooms. It's about 10 minutes from the site, so if you want that, you better book it, because I have a feeling.
Oh, no.
Yeah, it is a self-sufficiency. Like, these people are doing the most amazing job of being hospitable and feeding people, okay? But that's not going to last. The mom who had to do all the chores here is going through all of this emotional trauma, was also cooking meals for people, and now she's locked herself in the pen. So the daughter, and another piece of the story people don't necessarily know, the father is a paraplegic and has to be tended to all day long. And now the mother can't do it. The daughter is trying to manage all of this, including all of the people that are showing up. And yet she somehow, with a smile on her face, manages to get in there and take care of this man. It's nothing short of admirable.
Yeah, I've had Katie on a couple of times, not Karen at all, because she's a little bit camera shy. She made a great video yesterday, by the way, very emotional, we thought, and she was asking for people to come out. Is the mood good generally, especially since yesterday?
The mood was extremely tense yesterday. It's relaxed up significantly at this point.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, well, at that point, we had a skeleton crew, and it was really bad news. And we know that these people are they're not necessarily going to take their time here. They want this done to set a precedent so they can continue to do it for whatever their weird reasons are.
Yeah.
And, that puts everybody on high alert. And we are diligent 24 hours a day here. We have 24 hours a day security. We have people, we've got walkies, we've got all the things, drones, all the things. So if something happens, whether it's going to be broadcast live, who knows if that'll be a thing. But we're getting all the offline footage from many different angles. This story needs to be told, and let's hope it goes well.
Yeah, I was thinking about that earlier today. Like this sort of, like, I can't even imagine how they would try to go about something like this. There's 400 very large animals in this area. Like, what are they going to do? Bring in their shotguns and start shooting, or are they going to tranquilize? Have you figured that out?
Oh, well, we've ran all the scenarios. We've tried to get in the bad guys' heads and figure out everything. At the end of the day, our guess is they're not going to shoot on property. It would be a PR nightmare. It would be ugly as hell. Even if they did it at night, it wouldn't matter. They're not going to bring in helicopters, because that could cause the birds to run. If you get 50 of these birds running at a fence, they're going to mow it right down. And there's nothing but wilderness around us. We're in a valley with mountains all around us that they'd be gone. They'd be gone. So they can't bring in. And if they bring in helicopters with guns, I mean, we were talking about darts. That would be it would seem like they just fell asleep. But the most likely scenario at this point is that they're going to bring in cattle trucks. They're going to bring in police escorts with cattle trucks. They'll lock off all the gates. And they will keep everybody away or evacuate them from the property, find some way to evacuate them from the premises, and then go inside, apprehend both farmers, and then corral them into trucks and move them on out of here, and probably gas them on the way or foam them on the way. And it looks like the Udachina dump. Oh, dude. Okay, you don't even know this. I just found this out. Okay, this is actually breaking news. I haven't told anybody about this. We just found it out. The Udachina dump had a contract to dispose of these birds in November of 2024. Wow. These birds weren't found to be PCR tested at over 35 cycles and guilty until December.
Yeah. So they've had this plan going for a very long time, much longer than even the farmers knew about it. Yeah.
At least a month before they even came here to test the dead birds.
So this is a complete and total false premise that we've known, but that's another great clue for it. Thanks for that information, Jim. Are we hearing anything about an appeal? And if so, could an appeal delay this process? Is anybody talking about that?
Yes, we have been talking about it for a long time. At this point, there are, how do you put this? Nah, I'm not really going to get into it. They're doing what they can. They're doing what
Okay.
they can. It's just there are a lot of dynamics when you get into these things, as far as like having multiple lawyers and having differing counsels, and there is an immediacy about it. That's absolutely the case, and we do understand that. But there's a couple of different ways that we can go about it, and that'll be solidified before court opens tomorrow morning.
Okay, man.
But
Thank you very.
there are paperwork in process. Let's just put it that way.
Okay, thanks very much. Is there anything we forgot to mention? Do you want to show us some ostriches? You want to
Oh
roll some people
yeah,
through the scene here? We'd
dude,
like to
that
see
just
what's going on there.
it never gets old. These animals are majestic. They stand like 7-8 feet tall. They tower over you. They got this great big talon, like big gnarly nail underneath, and they're dangerous as heck. But they're just majestic. Look, I'll take you over.
All right.
So I learned a whole bunch of things about ostriches. So the black ones here, the dark ones are males. The gray ones are females. If you take a look at the redness in their beaks or in their legs, that's testosterone. So the redder the beak, the redder the legs, the more the testosterone. I was fortunate enough to have one named after me called Jim because he had a little bit of hair on his chin. Yeah.
That's great.
But they've all got personalities. They've all got names. One gentleman was a little bit too, I don't know, gutsy or whatever. He went into the pen to shoot a crow because they were attacking the birds, and one of the males got him in a corner and stomped on him, and he had a leather jacket on. And it ripped a hole in the side of him.
Whoa.
So, they're not to be trifled with, and the only reasons that the farmers can is because they understand their personalities and they know where they are in the pecking order. One other thing that Dave said, he's one of the owners, is he says his concern isn't that an alpha will come up to him and attack him, but if there's a fight where one of the birds loses, then it will look at the next weakest thing to prove that it's still worthy of being part of the thing. And he's a little bit concerned that he might be that thing that they attack.
So I see. Now, do the birds actually develop an attachment to people? Have you developed an attachment to any of them at all?
Okay, well, I have developed an attachment to ostrich. I
In
can't
general?
differentiate. I can't differentiate, but I've never had such up close, intimate. Okay, well, the first night I got here, okay, I didn't know anybody, and I pulled into my van because I'm sleeping in my van. I'm gonna rent a van, come out, sleep in the van. I'm sleeping in the van. All I hear is bass music from really far away. It's like whoa, whoa, whoa. And it was the bellows of these things. They don't make any other sounds. There's like 400 animals, and if there wasn't a human here, you wouldn't hear a thing but this. Their neck just like swells out, and their eyes. Oh my God! It's like the whole world is looking back at you when you see those eyes because they're so predominant in the head.
Yeah.
Yeah. I kind of fell in love for sure.
I heard you say earlier today on one of your lives that this has been one of the best times of your life. Yeah, true.
Without question. I love fighting the good fight. You know what I mean? And I love the David and Goliath story, and I always want David to win. But I've never met such a. The love, the setting of love and kindness and generosity. When you consider all of the things that they're going through, their ability to be able to hold it down for other people, hold space for other people, make them feel special in this process, and no matter how dark it gets, they're bringing light to the situation. Like I remember when they were going to court, and I asked her, how you feeling? She goes, well, I'm just envisioning the judge filled with light and a bright light around him and positive outcome. Like, and it kind of sounds hokey a little bit, but it works. It works, and I have faith in not only what they're doing, but I have faith in what this outcome will be. Not necessarily. I hope that the birds are saved, but let me tell you something. If they're not, it's going to light something on fire that is not going to be good for those who are up to all this nonsense.
Yeah, I mean, people are suggesting this could be a sacrifice that, as you say, lights the rest of the country on fire, and from that we may get some change. I just want to say, Jim, thank you for everything that you've done and for keeping the country aware of what's been happening for the past couple of weeks. I was talking to Maggie Hope Braun, our friend, today on the phone, and she says hello.
I love Maggie. She's great. She's doing good work. Kickley is great, man. Local initiatives. That's how we're going to change it, man. You get local. You get with your communities. Get into your city halls. Have your voice heard. Damn right. Maggie Hope Braun. She's great. I've known her for years.
Are you still expecting more people? Do you want to give the address of the place out so people can find you?
Well, once I give this address, I'm expecting more people. So absolutely. It's 301 Langill Road. That's Langille in Edgewood, BC. It's the place to be.
All right, brother. Thanks very much. We'll see you again.
All right, buddy. Good talk.
Okay. Yeah. Bye-bye. Here's Jim Kerr, everybody. We're going to be back with the rest of the show in 30 seconds. Hey, a couple of things before we get into the show. First thing is for all the all access people, and there's not many of you, but there are some who are having trouble getting into the website or watching on your phone. You don't know exactly how to do it. Okay, so here's the thing. When you take your phone, and most people look at it vertically, right? Like that's what you do. You look at, not many people think to turn horizontally because they're used to apps, and apps are generally in 916, not 16.9. But the website is a website. It's not an app, which means everything is going to come out horizontally. So if you're having trouble getting into the website because you can't find where to sign in on your phone, turn your phone sideways and poof, amazingly, the login will come up right before your very eyes. Second thing is, please clear whatever browser you're using. Please clear your history/cache and then go ahead and try and log in again. It should work. It's 99.9% guaranteed to work. All right. On the extension tonight for the all access folks at shadowdavis.com, Confessions of an Economic Hitman. Guy comes out and says it right to our faces about what he did and what others have done for years and years to coerce world leaders to bend to their will. It's absolutely an amazing story, and that's coming up on the extension tonight. On Saturday, if you happen to be in the Winnipeg area and you want to come and join my friend Suzanne Mariani, she's a singer. She's performing at the Cork and Flame under new management, under new ownership. This coming Saturday night, she's starting at 6:30 and going right through till 9 o'clock. The food is great down there. The people are great. The atmosphere is great. I'm going to be down there saying hi to my friend Suzanne, hopefully to a few other friends as well. So if you happen to be in the Winnipeg area, you're looking for a great meal and some good times on Saturday night, we would love to see you at the Cork and Flame. It's on Portage Avenue in St. James. Hopefully we'll see you there. And Suzanne, it's always a treat seeing and watching her perform. All right, we didn't do the hellos tonight. We didn't do hellos last night, and I feel a little bit bad about it. So hello, Linda, and Tony, and Michael, and Lori, and Cheryl, and Carla. Thank you very much, Carla, for doing what you did for me. I appreciate that. Doreen, hello, and Brandon. Huguette in Edmonton. God, I hope I didn't butcher your name. Hello, Julia in London, Ontario. Carol, Amanda, Connie, Lillian in Rimbey, Alberta. Iris is watching in Calgary tonight. Barbara is watching from Georgetown, Ontario. Tomorrow night on the show, Jeff Rath from the Alberta Prosperity Project. We're going to talk about Alberta independence. All right. This just came in about 10 minutes before the show started tonight. As I was talking about earlier, recounts are ongoing. There are 4 ridings in question right now. And this one here was the one that we thought was decided by a single vote last night. And then a woman came forward saying, well, I mailed my ballot in well before the deadline, and it got returned to sender for some reason because the post office got the postal code wrong. I put it down right. They got it wrong. So she got her ballot back in the mail. That one vote would have created a tie in that riding. and possibly another recount, possibly a redo, maybe a by-election. So there's more on that one. Terra Nova, the peninsula's recount result could take days, a judge says, and that's because there are more than 1,000 disputed ballots that need to be reviewed in the race initially decided by 12. So it was initially decided by 12 for the bloc, and then a recount happened, and the Liberals took it by 1. And now with that extra vote and maybe 1,000 other disputed ballots, we could have a completely different result in the next few days. We don't know. As I mentioned before, there are 3 other recounts ongoing right now, which could decide the Liberals getting 172 seats or the Liberals getting 168 seats. We'll see. In the meantime, the government and all the ministers have been appointed. Parliament starts in a couple of weeks. It'll be opened by a speech from the throne by King Charles. We got to get away from the monarchy, man. They're so evil. So this one from the National Post, the finance minister said, we're not going to have a budget this year. Again. So we just got elected, right? We're going to start off with no budget. How about that? We have no idea what's coming in. We have no idea what's going out, but we are going to give you a tax cut. How? I don't know. I guess we'll just borrow some more, maybe print some more money out of thin air. The government is focusing on a fall update, they say. In December, a House committee tabled a 330-page report on the fruit of its 2025 budget consultations. Here is Franco Terrazzano, who is the director of the Canadian Taxpayers Federation.
News, folks. The Carney government just said that it's not going to be tabling a budget this year. Crazy, folks. I mean, first of all, this decision alone is a huge crack in Carney's credibility. Look, how can you have any credibility on fiscal responsibility if you can't even put together a budget plan, right? How can you even be a financial wizard if you can't even put together a budget? A huge credibility issue here if the government doesn't bring forward a budget. Now, look, like Canadians have every reason to be worried about the state of our national finances, right? The government is more than $1 trillion in debt. The government doubled the debt in less than a decade. The government has been running deficits in the tens of billions of dollars every single year. In Carney's platform, he plans to add another $225 billion to the debt over the next 4 years. I mean, folks, the banker is supposed to be better with the numbers than the drama teacher, but Carney is planning on adding almost $100 billion of more debt than even what Trudeau was planning to do. Okay, think about it this way. Interest payments on the debt alone are blowing a $1 billion hole in the budget every single week. Okay, welcome to Canada, folks, where every single dollar you pay in federal sales taxes goes to pay interest charges on the debt. So Canadians have every reason to be worried about the state of our national finances. And with this decision, the Carney government is essentially just shrugging it off. Oh, don't worry, folks. Well, here's the thing. Taxpayers deserve a budget. Taxpayers deserve to know the true state of our national finances, and taxpayers deserve the ability to hold the government's spending plans accountable. But that's pretty hard when the government isn't even going to present a budget. So here's the thing, folks. Canadians deserve a budget. The Carney government must come out with a budget this year, okay? That is end of story, simple as that. And here's the thing. With this decision of the Carney government not presenting a budget, well, that is a huge crack in the government's credibility. Folks, we're going to fight this hard to make sure that the government is transparent with you and presents a budget plan.
Well, you know, I have a lot of experience running the finances of countries. Look. I've been the governor of the Bank of Canada. I've been the governor of the Bank of England. And I know how to get it done. No budget, though. No budget for you. Remember last year when the Liberals were going to bring out a budget, and then they didn't, and they came out with that fall economic statement in December, and then Chrystia Freeland quit? as Minister of Finance, and then all of this nonsense started, and look where we are now. What about immigration? What about that? Many people concerned about it because, hey, let's be honest. You walk through your city these days or your town, and you don't even recognize it anymore. Here is Mark Carney on immigration.
We will return our immigration to sustainable levels by capping the total number of temporary workers and international students at less than 5% of Canada's population by the end of 2027. That's a sharp drop from the recent high of 7.3%, and this will help ease strains on housing, on public infrastructure, and social services. At the same time, we will work to attract the best talent in the world to build our economy.
But we won't have a budget, and we're reducing immigration to still ridiculous levels, but at least we're reducing it. Remember a couple of months ago during the election campaign, Mark Carney was quietly announced, and I think Poilievre pushed back on it for a couple of days, and then his advisors probably said, Pierre, it's not getting any traction, this Century Initiative thing. People don't know what it is. So you're wasting your time talking about it. But Mark Carney hired a guy who created the Century Initiative. What is the Century Initiative? It is a project that was voted in favor by the Trudeau Liberal government just a few years ago that is supposed to increase Canada's population by the year 2100 to 100 million. That guy's name was Mark Wiseman. Mark Wiseman was the guy that Mark Carney hired. How do they know each other? From the World Economic Forum, of course. Carney adds Century Initiative co-founder to Canada-U.S. Council. So this guy is still on the U.S. negotiation team. Elbows up, everybody. The Century Initiative, co-founded by Mark Wiseman, calls for a massive increase in Canada's immigration levels with the ultimate goal of bringing the country's population to 100 million by the end of the century. Jasmine Lane had a few things to say about that today. Our friend Jasmine, here she is.
Without saying, too, that, yes, in most countries, immigration is a good thing. It can be very good. When it's implemented the way that it is in Canada, it's not only bad for Canadian citizens, it's horrific for people who come to Canada for a better life and they get here and they realize, holy crap, this country, it sold me a lie. Like, they gave me a false promise of how much better my life would be, and I'm actually really struggling and hurting, and it's not as easy as I was led to believe. And I think that the immigration rate at the levels that we have it right now is completely unsustainable, obviously, but it's also unbelievably cruel to lie and mislead somebody to give up everything in their life for a better opportunity that you cannot actually hold up your end of the bargain with.
I suppose that's one way of looking at it, but they can always go back. Now, I know moving is a hassle. Nobody likes to move. Nobody likes to pack up and leave. But once you've done it, you know how to do it. And you can always do it again. Just pack up and go back home. This is not what we thought it was going to be. And go back home. Maybe back home is even better considering the state that Canada's in right now. We're going to get to the energy thing in just a second, but why is growth in your city still exploding? Carney said and again, he's only been in office for a little while. Parliament hasn't even sat yet. He hasn't had a chance to really do anything. So we can't blame Mark Carney for anything, but we can blame that Liberal government because 80% of the ministers that were in Trudeau's cabinet are in Carney's cabinet. We know that. But why is your city looking so different? Well, most Canadians have probably never heard of the Century Initiative. It operates behind the scenes and has received a measure. This is, by the way, comes from the Population Institute of Canada.com. Received a measure of public scrutiny only in the past few years when the impact of Canada's population explosion became too evident to ignore. So you're not the only one who's noticing it. Everybody across the country is noticing it, but the problem is that they feel if they say anything about it, they're going to be called a racist. Century Initiative, founded in 2011, obtained charitable status in 2014, which it managed to retain upon becoming a registered lobby group in 2021, having somehow persuaded the Canada Revenue Agency that it operates in the interest of Canadians. Well, Canadians may be in the dark about the Century Initiative. They're actually or they are acutely feeling its impact on their lives. For one thing, they're sharing the country with millions more people than in all likelihood would have been the case were it not for the efforts of this organization. Canadians are bewildered about Canada's immigration policies. Why, for example, the Trudeau government is bringing in extraordinarily high numbers of newcomers when Canada is still pulling itself out of the morass of the COVID pandemic. They would do well to inform themselves about the Century Initiative. You can find this again, guys, on the Population Institute Canada, populationinstitutecanada.ca. This is why it's happening. And Carney is buddies with Mark Wiseman of the Century Initiative. So yeah, he might try to bring, you know what? It's like gas prices. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to bring immigration down to manageable levels. What manageable levels there? I don't know. 5% of the population? We're going to bring it down to 5% of the population by 2027, I believe he said. Currently, it sits at something like 7.3. Wow, thank you. 2 million people between now and then are going to come and live in Canada, and we absolutely know where they're going to be from, right? So those immigration levels, well, they may come down a little bit. Gas prices go up from 130 to 170. Everybody complains, and then they come down to 150, and everybody seems good with that. It's the oldest trick in the book, man. What about pipelines? What about this energy corridor that Mark Carney promised during his election campaign? He was on with, what's her name, Vashi from CTV yesterday. And I got to say, she did a pretty good job with this. She held his feet to the fire, and he obviously responded the way Mark Carney does, with petulance. Let's watch.
If you want a simple answer on will I support building a pipeline? Yes, that simple answer, given that multiple times. But I don't stop at that. I don't stop at, for example, if you want a simple answer on how do I make homes more affordable, I could just say, we're going to cut GST on homes. But that doesn't solve the problem. Just doing one pipe, it's good. Don't get me wrong, it's good. That's a positive thing, and working collaboratively in order to happen. But it's not enough. It's not enough to make Canada energy superpower. It's not enough to build our full potential. It's not enough to truly get incomes growing across the country. We can do much more. We are going to be very, very ambitious. Build big, build bold, build now.
It does speak, though, to what people in Alberta and Saskatchewan who didn't vote for your party are worried about, right? They are worried that it is the Mark Carney of values, it is the Justin Trudeau government, and the reason I ask about that is against that backdrop, right? You are still saying you're going to keep C69 in place. You are going to keep the emissions cap in place. They view that as evidence of something. They view that, pardon me, as evidence of something that runs counter to what you're saying right now.
What I've said very clear. Look, I am a pragmatist. I go over and over on this, and I really am. I'm interested in results. So the point of building a pipeline, the point of building out carbon capture is to get the results, to get get those barrels to the market, to get carbon down. You can do both. We have the capability to do more. And we have the capabilities financially, from a technological perspective, in terms of the companies. Federal government can play a role. The province of Alberta, obviously other provinces, Indigenous people have to come along for almost all of these projects in order for them to actually work. And what I'm putting on the table is, okay, let's go. Let's not talk about this. Let's roll up our sleeves. Let's focus in on specific projects, and let's work on them together.
Always with that dramatic pause, right? And let's work on them together. Do you believe him? I don't believe him for a second. Not for 1 second. And I'll show you why in just a couple of minutes. And that includes a clip from our new Heritage Minister, Stephen Guilbeault. Does Danielle Smith believe Mark Carney is open and honest about building a pipeline from west to east? And how else would Canada become an energy superpower without oil and gas? We know he wants to leave it in the ground. I'm not sure if you've read his book. Even if you haven't read his book, go to ChatGPT. Go there and ask Chat or Grok or whatever AI. Go and ask one of those two or whatever AI to summarize his book and then start asking it questions about Mark Carney's stance on oil and gas, about Mark Carney's stance on net zero. And you'll soon see exactly what his position on it is. You already know about it. I mean, he was the UN climate ambassador for 2 or 3 years, 2018 to 2021, I think. He is a zealot about net zero. So how can a net zero zealot believe in building a pipeline and becoming like, what are we going to do? Take up an entire province and build solar panels and wind farms? Is that going to do it? No. Of course it won't. And it will kill a lot of birds and other wildlife along the way. But what does Danielle Smith think of all of this? Here she is today.
From CBC National News. Thanks for taking my question, Premier. I want to turn back to the announcement of the federal cabinet. Mark Carney has pushed Stephen Guilbeault out of the environment file, said he's going to get rid of the consumer carbon tax, but he still doesn't have any ministers, or only two ministers west of Ontario. I'm just curious what your sense is on what this says about his attempts to sort of reach out to Western Canada to make bridges to voters here and to this region.
Well, look, we had a problem in Parks Canada with them not clearing away forested areas, which has resulted in a wreck in Waterton, a wreck in Jasper, and we hope we don't have a wreck in Banff. So it's certainly not going to be, it's going to be soft comfort for everyone to see that Monsieur Guilbeault still maintains a position in Parks Canada. We've got a lot of work to do. We're about to enter into fire season, and I would hope that we would be able to move very quickly on securing those towns so that they don't face a fire threat. So that would be one thing I'd say. I think that the Prime Minister has made his views very clear about keeping oil and gas in the ground. He's made his views very clear about he not wanting a transparent carbon tax. He wants a hidden one. So I don't think it does Alberta any good if we end up seeing massive increases to industrial carbon taxes. It's been quoted many times saying he thinks that the carbon tax is too low. So I'm going to just reserve judgment. I had a whole range of things that are problematic with the federal government, from emissions caps to tanker bans off the West Coast, the inability to approve pipelines, getting approvals and then having them pulled, having a convoluted regulatory process that makes it impossible to get new pipelines built, continued threats of regulating our power grid, continued threats of regulating our industry, continued threats of export taxes, cutting off energy. I haven't really seen any change that would lead me to be encouraged that we're going to have a reset on our relationship.
I think she's right. I think Danielle Smith is smart. Got another older clip to play for you from her coming up in just a second. There's a lot of debate going on about who Danielle Smith really is. Is she good or is she bad, or is she trying to walk a line and satisfy everybody, which is something that you probably shouldn't do, by the way. Getting back to the federal cabinet for just a moment, there's two parts to this particular interview. Stephen Guilbeault, the new Minister of Heritage. And one in which he's talking about Danielle Smith, and the other where he talks about pipelines. Let's have a look at that.
Concern that you're part of the cabinet and also the new selection of Mr. Boozen for the environment minister. She says it's too close of a tie to you. What do you say in response to that?
I think we will have to agree to disagree with Premier Smith. We think that protecting the environment, fighting climate change is important. Lots of Canadians believe that as well. It was a central element of our platform, and we will make good on our commitments.
The Prime Minister last night on TV seemed to open the door to potentially changing the emissions cap or the IAA to get projects built. What do you think of what he said?
Well, these are important conversations that we will need to have in the coming weeks.
Premier Smith is saying that you're anti-pipeline still. What do you say in response to her concerns just broadly about the cabinet, and how do you deal with national unity? How do you address that right now?
So on pipelines, people should remember that we bought a pipeline, Trans Mountain, and that is only used right now about 40% capacity. So I think before we start talking about building an entire new pipeline, maybe we should maximize the use of existing infrastructure. And the Canadian Energy Regulator, as well as the International Energy Agency, are telling us that probably by 2028, 2029, demand for oil will peak globally, and it will also peak in Canada. So as far as I know, there are no investors right now. There are no companies that are saying that they want to build an east-west pipeline. And as you know, these things are built by companies, not governments.
And he starts speaking in French and giving the same answers. We don't know of any companies that want to build any pipelines in this country. Well, under the current conditions, of course. Why would they say, yeah, we want to invest $3 billion in an east-west pipeline when the regulations are so severe you can't get anything built anyway? It would be a non-starter. It's absolutely absurd that he would say something like that. But he is still a member of cabinet. There he is talking about climate change when he probably should be talking about national heritage or whatever it is he's going to be doing. I don't know what. His voice has always been rather loud in cabinet, and I do recall him saying a year ago that if the government capitulated and got rid of any carbon taxes or any of the environmental laws and mandates that they've laid out over the past 5 years, he would quit. And there he is again in cabinet. I'm not sure what he's got on Mark Carney or had on Justin Trudeau, but he's still in there. And he's a big net zero zealot, just like many of them are. And I know I saw some comments that came through during that clip was playing, and people are saying there's no climate change. Now, you got to be careful with that. There has always been climate change. It moves very slowly over thousands of years. Thousands of years. What you should say is there is no climate emergency. Right? Because this is how they trick you with their language. If you say there's no climate change, they can say, oh, there is, you don't know what you're talking about. If you say there's no climate emergency, well, that's a different story altogether. But then you've got to know the background of why there is no climate emergency. And I would suggest looking for videos that include Dr. Patrick Brown, formerly of Greenpeace. He explains it so very thoroughly. There's another reason that we know that this government is never going to build any pipelines or use any existing pipelines to capacity. Ryan Garrettson, our friend on X, pointed this out today. He says, here are posts from just a handful of people who were part of Carney's cabinet, including Carney himself. There will not be a single pipeline built under these eco-activists' watch. Gregor Robertson says, it's appalling that the Canadian government is willing to spend over $4 billion of our tax dollars to buy a Texas oil company's pipeline that massively increases climate pollution and puts tens of thousands of jobs on our coast at risk of oil spills. Mark Carney himself said in 2021, Canada has enshrined climate targets into law, laying a path to net zero and a competitive, sustainable economy. It's not been competitive or sustainable for 10 years. It's another lie that he's told, and he keeps telling them. Big for Canada, big for the planet, climate policy at COP26 fast approaches. Congrats to Justin Trudeau, Jonathan Wilkinson, Catherine McKenna, Climate Barbie. Julie DeBrusen says we're taking action to cap pollution from the oil and gas sector with the new draft regulations that aim for 35% reduction in emissions by 2030. Stephen Kilbo. Today, Canada moves forward on our pledge to cap oil and gas emissions at the rate needed to get us to net zero by 2050. These people are zealots. Just looking at these tweets, compiled like they are from the past few years, does it not make you understand, if you don't, and I know most of you guys do, but if there's somebody new who just happens to be coming into the conversation now and thinks that Mark Carney is actually going to be good for this country and good for the West, good for Alberta, good for our energy sector, he is not. No matter what he says, actions speak louder than words. Much louder than words. And I understand that he hasn't had any time in Parliament yet, but the economy is worsening. And it's their own fault anyhow. Parliament hasn't been sitting for the past, 5 months? What did Pierre Poilievre say with Jordan Peterson? The Canadians had to sit around waiting for 5 months while the Liberals dealt with their shit. And Parliament will not sit for another week and a half. Still. Massive layoffs at an auto plant. The trade war to blame? Sure, probably. Not much anybody could have done about that. 4,500 auto workers on temporary layoff at Stellantis in Windsor after the assembly plant closed for 7 days, May 5th. This pause could be linked to the tariffs. Could be. Don't say for sure. Linked to the tariffs imposed in the trade war between politicians and oligarchs in the U.S. and Canada. That's from the North Star. So Melanie Joly, our new Minister of Industry, addressed that today. And here she is.
The Prime Minister says we always have to plan for the worst. If the auto plants move south, can they be retooled? Can you redevelop the auto plants?
So I've already been in contact with the CEOs of GM, Ford, and also Stellantis. My goal is to be able to have good conversations with them before the end of the week. My message to the workers in the auto sector is we're there for you. We know that there's anxiety. We know you're concerned about losing shifts. We know we were concerned about losing your jobs, and we will always fight for your jobs. Notwithstanding that, we also have a $2 billion worth of support for the industry, the auto industry, the steel and aluminum industries that are affected by the trade war. One of my first decisions will be also to make sure that the workers can benefit from these investments. Merci. Merci.
Oh, merci. We have $2 billion. You have no budget. We, the people of this country, do not have a budget. So how is it that you have $2 billion set aside for the failing steel industry and the failing auto industry in this country? How is that? And even as you continue to prop up auto, steel, and I'm not saying they shouldn't be doing it, they continue to crap on Alberta's head and tell them it's a hat. It's actually very disheartening, this government. So what should be done about it? Should Alberta separate? Well, we'll get into that tomorrow night in depth with Jeff Rath, a lawyer with the Alberta Prosperity Project. But let's continue on with what's happening today. CBC, Radio Canada will scrap their much maligned performance pay for managers because that was kind of a big deal in House of Commons committees for the past few months. Public broadcaster doing away with compensation program that caused the political firestorm. What they don't say in the headline is that they're going to be increasing salaries to make up for lost money for high-level managers at the CBC when the bonus program goes away. Performance pay. You got to go down a few paragraphs to see that story. This one is interesting. Oh, and by the way, don't forget about what I told you last night regarding the Honda EV plant delay in Ontario. Honda said that they were going to be starting as soon as possible making EVs here in Canada. And the federal government and the provincial government of Ontario both kicked in $2.5 billion in incentives and tax breaks. And then just yesterday, they said, you know what, we're going to delay that for a couple of years because there's no demand for electric vehicles in Canada. So there's $5 billion of your tax dollars down the sewer. Now, they didn't give it to them in cold, hard cash, but they did make allowances for it in their budgets. Well, I guess Ontario has a budget. Federal government doesn't. But this is another one that the federal government invested billions of dollars into. Remember that big cricket plant in London, Ontario? I used to live in London. And before it was the big cricket plant, it was a Kellogg's plant. And I remember the smell of it. It smelled like burnt Rice Krispies or burnt Special K. And then it was converted into a cricket plant so people could eat crickets. It was one of the largest cricket plants in the world. Aspire Food Group, the London-based business that produces food proteins from crickets, is in the hands of a receiver. A receivership order granted in the Toronto Court of Superior Justice has placed Aspire in the hands of receiver FTI Consulting Canada. The decision was based on a filing from Crown Corporation Farm Credit Canada, which reported that Aspire had $41.5 million in debt. I wish I could tell you how much the federal government invested into this thing, but I don't have those numbers handy. Maybe it will tell us in this story. But one agri-food expert doesn't think this needs to be the end of Aspire. I think this plant needs to survive because there's potential here. You can actually do a lot of things with crickets. When are these people ever going to wake up? People do not want to eat crickets. Professor Sylvain Charlebois is the director of agri-food analytics at Dalhousie University and co-hosts the Food Professor podcast. He feels there's a market for cricket proteins. You can actually produce fertilizer for lawns, for plants, and obviously I'm thinking about the food supply chain and producing nutrients and feed for livestock in particular. What, no humans? According to information provided by the company, Aspire was formed by 5 McGill University students in 2013. Popular BC Park closed to public to give First Nations time to connect with the land. Joffrey Lakes Park is scheduled to reopen on the 17th. To recognize the importance of the Pipiq Joffrey Lakes Park area to the Lilwat Nation and Nakotqua, I butchered those, I'm sure. The park will be closed to recreational visitors and the general public from April 25th to May the 16th. This period will provide exclusive space for the Lilwat Nation and the Nakotqua to connect with the land. When the park is once again accessible to everyone, those over the age of 12 must reserve a free day use pass to enter. What can I tell you, folks? I want to get back to Danielle Smith here for a second. People wondering if she's good or if she's bad or if she's secretly a member of the World Economic Forum, if she's working for the cabal in some way, if she's a Jesuit, she's a double agent, let's say. So let's go back. And I also want you to look at this clip and imagine how bad it's going to be for anybody who believes in Alberta sovereignty in the next few months in Alberta. The left-wing corporate media will be relentless. They've been relentless on Smith anyway, over little things, ridiculous things, things that aren't even really news, but they're out to get her. They're already blaming her for the separatist issue that's happening in Alberta right now, even though she says the government's not going to put a vote out there to the people that asks if you want to separate. That will be a citizen initiative. And there are many citizens groups, as I've mentioned before, that are willing to go out and get those signatures. She made it easier for people to be heard in this government, but that's how it should be. So let's go back a couple of years to a decision Danielle Smith made regarding removing a contract from AHS that they had signed with the World Economic Forum. Watch the media or listen to the media in this clip here.
Morning. Sorry, Premier, before we, I think there's some unfinished business from Saturday. I think Albertans deserve an answer. As you know, you're the Premier, you can make health decisions, but I think you would agree there's a responsibility to explain to Albertans why you're making these decisions. WEF, it's not clickbait, Premier, it's not entertainment, it's actually a health policy decision that you announced on Western Standard on Friday. AHS confirms there is a deal with WEF. It's very minor, it's an information sharing deal, but it does exist. And you're saying we are going to cancel that and anything to do with WEF, policy decision. So, sorry, I had to write this down because it was that. What concerns do you have then with WEF? And is it because you accept the online conspiracy theory that WEF is a front for a global cabal of world leaders bent on using the pandemic to destroy capitalism and install a socialist dysfunctional dystopia? And I'm sorry if I didn't get the whole theory correct.
Look, I think that we should be taking our healthcare advice from Alberta healthcare expertise And that is what we should be focused on doing. I'm going to continue working with frontline professionals to solve the problems that we have here. And the problems that we have here are related to emergency services, ambulances, our emergency rooms, as well as the inability to get surgical initiatives at our rural hospitals. That's the advice I want to be taking right now, and that's the focus that I want to have. And all the expertise we need for that is right here in Alberta.
Where then, Premier, you still haven't answered the question, Premier. You do not want to have anything to do with the WEF, and you have a well-documented appetite for alternative media sources. So if you're not going to answer the question, and you haven't done so now a third time, the question is, why won't Danielle Smith answer that question? And I put it to you, Premier.
I think
Premier,
I have,
I put it to you
Dean.
that you believe this theory, and I think it matters that you explain whether or not you believe this WEF theory, because it looks like you're actually basing health policy based on it.
I think it makes sense to make health decisions based on health experts. The group that you mentioned and the person at the helm of it, I don't think he's a medical doctor. I don't think he's a nurse, and I don't think he's a paramedic. And
They go on relentlessly for another couple of minutes. And they disparage independent media. They disparage Danielle Smith liking to appear on independent media. It's the way they operate. They're arrogant. They're condescending. And if you don't agree with their worldview, they will come after you using the full force of the left-wing corporate media. Having said that, that force has diminished quite a bit since the beginning of the COVID response, let's just call it. And independent media is gaining ground, gaining more and more and more viewers. And there's something special that we're going to announce on this show next week or maybe the week after that's going to bring all of us together in one city in September. And it would be very cool if you guys could be there. And that's all I can say about it right now. Imagine how powerful it would be if 10,000 people from all across the country got together, all the freedom-minded, all the liberty-minded, all the truth-seeking people in this country got together under one roof. 10,000 of us, maybe more, in one city with all of the independent media that you follow, including myself, and many of the others that you've seen on this show and all over every social media outlet. How many people we could reach? Be quite something, wouldn't it? And the energy in a place like that over a period of a weekend would be absolutely phenomenal. That's all I'm going to say about that for now. One last thing before we wrap it up tonight. And this came out today from Gateway Pundit. Secret Epstein video allegedly showing Prince Andrew with Virginia Giuffre expected to be released. That's very interesting. Recorded by the notorious pedophile Jeffrey Epstein. This video is reportedly on the verge of being released by the Department of Justice, a source told the U.S. Sun. It can be recalled that AG Pam Bondi was caught on hidden camera, excuse me, by O'Keefe Media Group, stating the FBI is currently reviewing tens of thousands of videos seized from Jeffrey Epstein's properties featuring little kids, many of them. Do you know when the Epstein files are going to be released? A concerned citizen asks Bondi. She says, we hope soon. And then Bondi echoed that statement during a press briefing outside the White House, maybe the next day. The FBI, she said, they're reviewing tens of thousands of videos of Epstein with children or child porn, and there are hundreds of victims. Bondi said in response to House Oversight Chairman James Comer's allegation the Epstein files may have already been destroyed, and no one victim will ever get released, she added. It's just the volume, and that's why they're going through them right now. The FBI is diligently going through that. Now, one insider tells the U.S. Sun, Prince Andrew, will be sweating over their release. If there's anything in there that involves him, it would pile more misery and humiliation on him. The news outlet also reported that previously unreleased interviews with Giuffre detail a highly embarrassing and specific trait about Prince Andrew proof, sources say, that the allegations weren't just words, but based upon unforgettable encounters. Investigative journalist Barry Levine, who wrote a book about Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell's trafficking empire, said Virginia talked about her sexual abuse by Prince Andrew, and there was a specific personal detail she mentioned. It would be highly embarrassing for the Duke if it ever got out. Whoa. Don't forget, guys, on the show tomorrow night, it's Jeff Rath from the Alberta Prosperity Project. We're going to be talking about Alberta independence again every night. Well, not every night. Now, I'm on summer hours, right? So we're going to go Monday to Thursday at 8 o'clock Central. So again, that show tomorrow night with myself and Jeff Rath will begin, obviously, at 8 Central. And then at 9 or just a little bit after, we start the extension on shadowdavis.com. All access Nighthawks tonight. Confessions of an Economic Hitman. This is a very interesting interview, and we're going to sit. It's about 58 minutes. We're going to sit down. We're going to watch it all in just a couple of minutes. So I'll see you there in just a couple of minutes. For the rest of you, I love you all, and I appreciate you all, and I thank you for being here tonight. Don't forget to like and share. Get it out there to as many people as you possibly can. Have a great night, and I will talk to you later. Bye for now.